There we go. All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host today, Samantha Studebaker Carl. I'm here with my good friends Catherine and Kenji and Sherry and Cheryl and Jason and Lori. And today we are going to continue our discussion of the book Hunting Discomfort by Sterling Hawkins. And we are on page 44 if you have the hard copy at the part titled When Feelings Masquerade as Facts. But before we get going with that, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. And then Catherine, you can take it away with the reading.
Carol Schuster. I'm living in Eldersburg, Maryland, and I'm just really happy to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Kenji, I'm in Gorham, Maine. We got 22 inches of snow.
Wow. Jason, here in outer space. Happy Saturday, everyone.
Lori Emmons in Denver here. I'm glad we don't have snow today. We're supposed to have rain. Happy to be here.
Yeah. I'm Sherry, just down the road from Cheryl in Eldersburg, Maryland.
Jane, you're just in time.
There,
Okay.
introduce yourself, Jane.
And I'm Jane, right down the road from Sherry and Cheryl in Eldersburg, Maryland.
Good morning, everyone. This is Catherine Clement. I'll get the reading started. So it's When Feelings Masquerade as Facts. When I first began public speaking, my fear was real. Gearing up to that big breakthrough moment in Singapore involved a lot of practicing. First in front of my sister, and then in front of small audiences where I continually froze up, started stuttering, or forgot my words completely. I was scared, anxious, insecure, and usually a bit angry at myself for both messing up and not naturally being better. Sounds fun, right? Once these emotions were triggered, all the negative thoughts started as well. I'll never be able to do this. Everyone must think I'm an idiot. Why bother? There's no point. Here's the thing. If you're going to push yourself into areas that make you uncomfortable, at some point negative thoughts will try to take over, and they'll bring all those unpleasant emotions with them. These thoughts are generated by your limiting beliefs, and that's why, when your emotions are triggered like that, your view of reality is almost completely obscured. At certain points, that's unavoidable. Welcome to being human. Just know that whatever is happening during that emotional time may look different from what is happening in reality. The good news is that this unpleasant experience offers a golden opportunity to dig in and unearth where you can begin to expand your current view of reality. What to do instead? Emotions are not the problem. Hanging on to them is. A qualitative study of Norwegian Healthy Life Center participants found that people described being burdened by an emotional baggage with problems from childhood and or with family, work, and social life issues when trying to change to a healthier diet. They felt that emotional baggage left them unable to act in accordance with the health knowledge they possessed. I use an exclamation mark because it once again shows that knowledge alone doesn't work. Hanging on to emotions will block your view of what's real and possible every time. It's important to feel and move through the feelings, to let them go and not be limited by them. The following exercise will help you get in touch with some of your stuck feelings so that you can fully feel them and then challenge the story that's giving you those feelings. Freedom from feelings. You may wish to do this exercise in a quiet and private place. Give yourself at least 5 minutes to do it. Number 1, when was the last time you were triggered with a negative emotion? Anger, grief, fear, rejected, resentful, insecure, inadequate. You get the idea. Write out the scenario, being as specific as possible about the emotions you were feeling. Write them all down. Number 2, as you write, Welcome back those feelings and let them move through you. Yell, cry, laugh, no judgment, at least if you're doing it in private. Whatever shows up is whatever shows up. Take the time you need. Don't rush these emotions. If you don't resist having them, they will move through you and leave on their own accord. Number 3, now, write down what beliefs or views you think you have that cause that reaction. Number 4, examine those views. Are any worth challenging? Write down a new belief that is more expansive. For example, replace "I'm not good at public speaking" with "I will master public speaking with practice." Number 5, now tack your new belief statement on the wall where you can see it. Time to start living it. You want me to stop there or continue? Oh no, keep going. All right, get unstuck. Get unstuck from the muck. I want to focus for a moment on the particular challenge of feeling absolutely stuck. I'm talking about the kind of stuck where you feel hopeless about change. Maybe you're stuck with a board of directors you don't like. You're stuck in difficult relationships. You hate where you live, or you're imprisoned by obligations you simply can't get out of. We all have instances like this, and you already know that it's not just a matter of flipping a switch and changing your view, especially if you're new to this whole paradigm shift thing. But trust me, this is no different from any other perceived problem you have. When you're stuck in one area or in every area, it really is just an inaccurate view of reality that you're dealing with. I know it seems so real, right? But that place of stuckness isn't a sign that you're trapped. It's a sign that it's time to make a change. What to do instead of being stuck, part 1. I have a hands down favorite way of breaking the logjam of being stuck. It can be fun, albeit challenging. Actually, challenging is the exact point. Do something really hard. Whenever you do something that's not easy for you, you demonstrate an expanded view of what's possible for yourself. In other words, you expand your view of reality. This is not an intellectual exercise. This is physical. I'm talking about putting yourself out there and blasting through in a very tangible way the limiting belief of what you are capable of. A few times a year, I host no matter what adventures for those looking to actively hunt discomfort in order to break through their perceived barriers. These are trips to different parts of the world to accomplish feats that seem scary, impossible, physically demanding, or maybe just entirely new. We've scuba dived the Catalina Islands, cycled to the top of Mount Evans, the highest paved road in the United States, and sailed the Galapagos Islands. These adventures are designed to disrupt and break one's status quo in order to provide a new vista. Inevitably, participants break through their personal deadlocks because they are no longer confined to their typical limited view. You don't have to cross the world to disrupt your personal status quo. You could sign up for a marathon, a dance class, a yoga membership. It doesn't really matter what, as long as it's something that's physically hard for you. When you step outside the safety of your comfort zone, enjoy the new view. Watch your world and your potential enlarge every time you do this. Enjoy the new you. Put it into action. Book yourself an adventure, big or small, right now. A new fitness class, a long run, a Tough Mudder, or something else that pushes your edges. Feel free to start small, but I recommend at some point doing something that pushes you to your breakthrough point. Message me if you need help. You'll find my contact info at sterlinghawkins.com. By the way, knowing you might be able to run a marathon or anything else is no substitute for actually doing it. You want to
I
stop
would
there?
stop there.
Okay.
Now Kenji was like, yeah, we could talk about that feelings masquerading as facts for all a whole bunch. I think that is a good thing to start with. And then the getting unstuck thing. I mean, I don't know how many times you guys have felt stuck in your life, but I've experienced it a number of times. So, but let's talk about the feelings masquerading as facts. Do you want to jump out on that, Kenji? I know you were
No,
thinking,
I'm just listening. Good, we're good.
just listening today. Okay, cool.
I'll jump on that.
Yeah.
Feelings, feelings like, it just helps to know where your feelings are actually coming from, and masquerading as facts, is one way to look at it, but also like attaching those feelings to something else, not necessarily trying to recognize them as facts, but just associating them with something. And I've just been noticing, because I've been tweaking my diet and really I should have been more like falling off of my diet and getting back on it in variations. But when I'm able to do that, I'm isolating the different feelings I'm getting from eating different foods a lot better. And I'm just noticing, like how some foods are heavier, some foods are lighter, and some, give you more energy, but may not satiate you as much, and others might satiate you more, but they don't necessarily give you energy, or they might zap you completely. And some have actually sort of given me the same feelings of like being stuck and feeling of also anxiousness because of being stuck, because of being like, you eat, to give an example, eating something heavy at a time when you really feel like you should be getting some work done or something like that, and then you start associating it with your procrastination, and that and just, but all in all, just knowing where those feelings come from, I think is huge, because that gives us a starting point anyway. And it doesn't have to be food. It could be your environment, being stuck in in front of a screen for hours, not getting enough sunlight, and or having a monotonous sound in the background for hours and hours, and not hearing any musical tones, or, I mean, just changing your environment, whether it's your audio environment or your visual environment or your actual environment. I think that can be a way to get unstuck as well. Yeah, go
Go
ahead, Jane.
ahead, Jane. You don't have to raise your hand, honey. Just jump in
Okay.
there.
Okay. I'm with other groups where I do have, where it's appreciated if you raise your hand. So I'll try to remember that with this group. I had a life reading from a person who has a highly developed intuition. And one of the things that I remember from that reading, along with other things, is it talked about tapping into the fact that the reading indicated that I rise above continually circumstances in my life, and I always kind of now that I had that reading, I like to look at it that way. Any challenge that comes up, or any discomfort, or I always try to look for that, that silver lining, or knowing that I'll be able to rise above it. And of course it goes along with the book, Hunting Discomfort. It's finding that discomfort where it may be, lately it's been around um, shame about something in particular. And that is a very debilitating feeling, shame. And so that's been a little challenging. And so, um, but nevertheless, I try to treat that as I would anything else. That knowing it's temporary, knowing that by addressing it, I will expand, and I continue to kind of stay in that place of trying to move past it, of that particular feeling. And so I find that even that worthwhile, knowing as like every other thing that I think has come up in my life, that eventually I'll find a way to address that and move past it, and will benefit from it. And where any other feelings of shame that might come up, I will use this as a marker. This particular thing that I'm a little bit embarrassed about. So I don't know. I feel like it's important because of how deep the feeling of shame can be, you know. So I kind of I bless it. Okay, I got this. I don't want to deal with it, but I can deal with it, and just sort of know that I will conquer that too. So so I think that's all I wanted to say.
Well, aren't we all just talkative today?
I think it's taken us some time to get moving.
Well,
That's
and to
all.
overcome and all the things you're thinking about in your brain and want to say something coherent and not be ashamed of it.
Ah, shame. Shame.
Oh, good one.
Yep, 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 yeah. Yeah, well, you see, I was hesitated to actually tell you what it was that I was ashamed of. I'm not there
I
yet.
think shame and guilt are probably the two most, yeah. Well, when he's talking about feelings masquerading as facts, right? As we have, guilt and shame are two of the worst that do that. They,
Mhm.
they masquerade as facts, and they make us feel just horrible. And that's something we have to dig into, is understanding that aspect of the negative self-talk on whatever we're feeling. That's a huge thing. We love making ourselves feel miserable over any number of things that we have done or experienced or haven't done. That's a big one. The shoulda, woulda, couldas are huge too. Those are big ones that masquerade as facts and make us feel less than, and make us talk negatively to ourselves and tell ourselves how horrible we are for not having accomplished or not doing, or all of those things. So
I can completely understand that if I would have done things differently, excuse me, I get done with high school and should have gone to college and done something with my life. But at that time, I was young, married, and having babies, and I felt like it was important to be home with them because of the shame and guilt, not guilt. I don't know what word I would put on it, but the shame of my family, and I wanted something better for my children, so I didn't got into the whole idea. I didn't go to college when I was young, and then to have guilt about not making enough money and that type of thing, but I also don't. The whole idea that money is the root of all evil, and it's not, it's the love of money. And it's hard not to beat myself up over the fact that I didn't go get a degree or whatever so that I can make money. And trying to bring
Yeah.
it back around. Go ahead.
Oh no, I hope I didn't interrupt you.
No,
Lori.
it's okay. I
Okay.
was drawing a
Okay.
blank.
Okay. Well, you know, and just, I guess, an example too. I'm not using myself as an example, but I started to see this one guy that I liked. We kind of hit it off, and as I got to know him, there's a little bit of a distance, driving distance between us, so it's not making it easy. But I kept trying to evaluate, you know, is this somebody I really want to continue? Do I want to be friends with him, or someone who I'm actually dating? And then all these flood of aha moments where I realized that this is somebody who he has an undergraduate degree, a graduate degree from Hopkins, and I was very careful not to ask him too many pointed, detailed questions, but I got an overall sense that he, well, just from different questions I did ask him that weren't like real detailed, but realizing that he moved from one apartment, he's a renter, to another apartment because he couldn't afford the jump in the rent. And then that he has a car that is used. He bought from somebody else because he was in an accident. It has like 224,000 miles on it. It's obvious that he doesn't have a lot of money. And so I'm wrapping my head around that, and I can tell by his not being really forthright about it, you know, and that the house that he is living in the city, which is a nice area, Charles Village, but he lives in the basement portion of the house, and it's very dark and there's very few windows, not much light. So as he was saying it, he said, you know, Jane, I hope you don't feel less of me because of this. And I kept mulling that over. And obviously there's some shame that he has around, evidently, and he's my age, he's 66. So I think there's some shame for him around the fact that he's really not doing that well financially. And this job that he just got about 3 weeks ago, I thought maybe, you know, because he said he was semi-retired when I first met him. I thought it was maybe just to be of help because he's a special ed aide, you know, in Harford County, which is quite a drive too. I thought, wow, you know, but no, he needs that job to support himself. And he said so he could maybe move back to the old apartment that he used to live in. And my financial circumstances are a lot different. So it's, I keep thinking, not only because he lives in the city, and I'm really not someone who's real comfortable going in the city, as well as this reason, you know, like financially, it would be very difficult to do much of anything without keeping in mind he doesn't have a lot of money to do anything. You know, so I'm going back and forth as to whether I want to tell him, let's just be friends, you know, And I'm thinking, am I being a snob about it? But really having a lot of compassion for the shame that he must feel. So it's interesting how, because I'm going through a situation where I'm experiencing some shame, and I'm also just met this person about 5 weeks ago, and I can tell he's experiencing some shame, and I'm feel awful for him. But yet at the same time, I guess I want to feel like at this point in my life, I want to be comfortable with a dating experience, because it's been a long time since I dated. So it's like, I'm going to put it myself out there. I also want to do that for my own self-care, to not have it difficult, and not having to deal with time periods where he's going to feel that shame around that. And I'm going to have to tippy toe, because I don't want to I don't want to hurt him in any way. So can anyone relate to that?
I definitely can relate to that. I understand that I have always had some aspect of shame in my life, that the circumstances that I had no control over, who my parents were or how they provided a living or anything. And then I perpetuated that I'm not going to be one of those people that have money to go and do what I want when I want. And there is very little bit of guilt in with that I chose that the man was going to take care of me and my kids, or our kids or whatever. And just shameful that, or feel shame when go out to lunch and I can't be the one to offer to pick up the tab. I'm always being blessed with that. But it's very discomfortable. Uncomfortable, I guess the word.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of women are in that situation where, they got married, and they really didn't think that they thought they were going to marry for life. And especially if those from another generation, their marriages lasted. Now the marriages don't seem to last. And then you're in a situation where you're struggling somewhat, and that adds a lot of stress to your life. And it limits your choices, and limits your availability to, do certain things that maybe you really want to do, like go on that really great vacation to Europe or wherever, you know, or have a situation that's eating up a lot of money, like a health issue. So I think there's, a lot of women and men, obviously Alan, that's what happened to Alan. He sounds like he went from job to job, and he never got one particular one that brought in a lot of money. I was blessed. My dad got me into, and I had a degree, but my dad got me into Westinghouse, and then it became Northrop Grumman, and I was there for 32 years. And I have, when I retired at 59, I have a pension and Social Security. So and plus I saved a lot of money in my 401k and got a bit of an inheritance. So, I'm doing fine financially, but I just, my heart goes out to those who struggle, or who worry, or who have situations that are hard to deal with financially.
So what was it then in the book earlier there, Catherine, when you were reading in regards to and the first part you read with changing a belief, and was talking about a couple steps into like writing it down and stuff like that. I mean, because like it sounds to me like what we're doing here is isolating a feeling that is stemming from a belief, and I liked how Samantha put it that, you kind of need to dig into that and find out. I mean, if you want to shed the burden of feeling the shame for things that are, possibly not something you should feel shameful of at all. Um, how do we do that? What was that in the book earlier? Like 3 steps, I think.
She's looking for it.
I got it. Did I? Yeah, I'm unmuted. Sorry, my eyes aren't so good. So number 1 was, when was the last time you were triggered? And write out the scenario, being as specific as possible about the emotions you're feeling. Write them all down. And then number 2 was, as you write, welcome back those feelings and let them move through you. I almost laughed in the beginning when they gave the instructions, because it says, give yourself at least 5 minutes to do this. And I hadn't even read it yet, but I thought, what can you do in 5 minutes other than brush your teeth? So
True.
if you're going to write down what's triggered you and all your emotions and feelings and scenario and move through it emotionally, it's going to take more than 5 minutes. Is all I'm saying. No
5 years.
judgment. Right. Whatever shows up shows up. Take your time. Don't resist the feelings. Now, write down, number 3, write down what beliefs or views you think you have that caused that reaction. And then number 4 is examine those views. And then write down a new belief that is more expansive. And then number 5 is just to put that new statement up on your wall so you can see it. So whether it's shame or anger or any of these feelings, there's always something in the background that's causing that. And it's almost always from our childhood or from like a traumatic experience that we've had in the past. I mean, it's totally, our body is designed to stay alive and survive. Like that's just how it's made. And it's totally a survival mechanism to, if you've been hurt in the past in a certain situation, and then you're thrown into that situation again, your body remembers that. Like it's immediately on alert and ready for that tiger to jump back out on you again or whatever. And that's just survival instinct. So, we do have to learn how to, like when I was a nurse, and this is part of the reason why I have some of the views and beliefs that I have from being a nurse for so long. You really have to learn how to compartmentalize emotions and feelings, because I worked with babies dying. You can't just fall apart in the middle of a code. Now you can fall apart afterwards when you go home. But, as a nurse, and our group here is all about like positive thinking and changing your life and mindset and everything. But when you're dealing with life and death, like no amount of positive thinking, the nurses, the parents standing around that baby saves the baby dies. Like there's a reality that has to be faced at some point. That's not to say that positive thinking doesn't work. Of course it does, but there's also reality. And sometimes you just have to like deal with reality. And these emotions, you can compartmentalize them, but then they get stuck there. If you don't go through these steps, like he said, and like experience and feel them, then they're just stuck there until something triggers them. And then they come out with a vengeance, That's why people overreact and kick dogs and, do, well, sadly, these days it's shoot up schools or whatever. The emotions just come back up and they feel like they can't control them. So this is a huge, it's a huge subject very important to learn how to deal with these emotions, because they do cause issues with our body and and issues with our relationships and issues with ourselves, because shame is self abuse, typically. I mean, somebody can shame you, but nobody can make you feel anything. Like, we feel these things because usually we're responding to a previous something that happened. But somebody can tell you that it's bad, that you're doing something and you shouldn't do that or whatever. But if you truly don't think that it's bad, there's no shame involved. I think I know you guys all get me what I'm saying. Shame is
Mhm.
self-imposed. It's self-imposed because of a belief that somebody else probably has put in our mind. So that shame's a really good one to work on, and anger and fear. And it's hard. And, that's why people get PTSD, because
Mhm.
we compartmentalize things all the time. And then all of a sudden something triggers us and we go off. And so,
Mhm. I agree with all of that. That's why it is something I'm processing, and I have no doubt, that I'll rise above it. I'll find a way to release it. And definitely it's mentioned in my prayers, and I ask for guidance, and I know that I'll get there. But I'd like to address Sherry's question in the chat about the book. Was it Poor Dad? Oh, was it
Rich Dad,
there?
Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Did you want to talk about that, Sherry? Or
A lot of what you were talking about brought back memories of that book and how we judge what is valuable.
Mhm.
And it will make you rethink things. It'll make you see it from another perspective, because it's not about just valuing money, is what that book tells us. And it's really interesting because it gives you two scenarios of two different dads, and it gives you a description of them at the beginning, and you have to judge which one is poor and which one is rich, and it goes through a lot in that judgment. It's very fascinating. It's still pivotal, and I remember it.
I've read that book also, but I'm kind of going back to, I was going to say, Sherry, I mean, Jane, I'll be 66 in a couple weeks, so I know we're doing good. But
thank you. Yeah, we are. Yeah.
the idea that to compartmentalize is kind of like shoving this back in the corner. It's becomes a shadow, and then you got to work on shadow work. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever really can deal with that. Say there's traumatic events in your life or something like that, that to be able to acknowledge what you have, give it a name, and like comfort it as if it was your inner child and you're trying to help heal that. It's okay. It's not your fault. It's not your responsibility. And it's terrible that that happened to you or whatever. But
Mhm.
I can't imagine being a nurse and having babies die in front of me and feeling like there's nothing I can do to help. And such a huge subject here, topic. Don't
Mhm.
it's just so intense that
what I find interesting is the possibility that, like Samantha mentioned something earlier about how we are so willing to beat ourselves up, something like in that, it's something of, willing to get down on ourselves. But in a sense, it's like in dealing with, yeah, I just wonder how, when I feel something, whether it's anxiousness or maybe shame or guilt or whatever, any of the things we talked about, how is it serving me? Is that something I've been used to using as a motivational tool, or has someone used that as an motivational tool on me when I was younger? And those sorts of things, and how for instance, what you were talking about, Lori, and how you were feeling some shame in regards to not having completed college, but you lived in a time where you weren't really expected to, but you probably wanted to. You probably felt maybe somehow it was ingrained in you that you could be a graduate and could do all this other stuff, and maybe you wanted, had the dream to do that, but then because of social norms, you were confined and kept back from doing that, and then you were told had to kind of convince yourself that it was okay, but still you were, but this is just a possible. I mean, the way I'm thinking that this be a possibility for, and that you still deep inside would like to have done it anyway, but now what in your unique position, or position for people that are kind of feeling that way, we do now, times have changed quite a bit to where you wouldn't be shamed for having a job and not being a stay-at-home mom, and there is a lot of opportunity now to go ahead out and make money without having to have a degree. You don't have to. In fact, a lot of people say that it's a waste of time. So yet that shame can end up possibly being a mechanism to not only like a double-edged sword, is, it's, and one way it's like motivating you to want to do it, but then it's also making you feel bad from doing it, and then it's also possibly holding you back and keeping you in a stuck position from looking past how things have changed so much, if that makes any sense.
It
But I think we're
totally
all
makes
feel that.
sense. It totally makes sense that, yeah, I did grow up in a time when it was an option, it wasn't proper to have a job or whatever. You should be home taking care of the kids where I belong, type of thing. That wasn't so much. I really didn't want to go to college. The whole idea of spending all that money to go learn something and then you can't get a job in that you went to school for. It's like everything seems to be such a catch-22. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And just acknowledging those feelings so they don't become a monster in the shadows, the monster under the bed. And it definitely does keep me kind of trapped with a physical ailment and not having income other than, Social Security, disability, whatever. But also there's so much ugliness with the money, and people can look down on someone for that. It causes jealousy and anger and all this mixed bag of emotions, and emotions are there for a good reason. We need them to help balance things out. And now I'm running off again and
That's
not
okay.
making sense.
You're making
Good point.
perfect sense, Lori. Now, I do want to add that, I feel like, this quandary with Alan came into my life because, I mean, I can see myself being friends with him. He's got, what attracted me to him was just this just lovely warmth that he has, dedication to some important causes that I admire about him. The job that he did get, he wanted to find something of service, so he's a special ed aide in a school. He's an aide to a young adult in high school who has cerebral palsy, and he may go on to eventually aid other students. So there's a lot about Alan, and I see it's not about money. I can see being good friends with him and forming and having that relationship, but just not wanting to get into the difficulties that might come with dating and having that disparity of the availability of money, that might become a little bit of a sticky wicket. So and maybe that's an avoidance where I'm concerned. Plus, it's not just that. I think I realized after a couple of weeks you can usually tell if it's a kind of a connection where there's really some real sparks going on, and I'm afraid that the sparks aren't quite there. But I would definitely keep him as a friend, and I think he'd be very accepting of that. And so I think I could be a supportive friend. And I think, wait, is that Cheryl? Did she have to leave? Oh, okay.
That's what she's saying.
Yeah. Sometimes those little chat things come up so fast, I don't have time to read them. But anyway, so I think surrounding this whole idea of somebody who's has more money than because I have a very close, well, I see her a couple of times a year, but she's a friend since I was very young, and we see each other a couple of times a year for lunch. And she rides over in her Mercedes, and her and her husband have done very, very well, and I'm happy for them. But I need to go too. Who's that? Oh, Sherry. Okay, bye. So yeah, there's a lot of different experiences and feelings one can have with regard to whether it's a friend who has money and you don't, or like I have enough money to be comfortable, but I don't have enough money to go on like these really big trips, maybe small trips, but you know what I mean. It's all relative. And it is a challenge to accept our situation and realize that we're enough, and what we have is enough. And not feel shame over that. I understand the feelings of feeling shame over that, but again, that's something one needs to work through, just like anything else, any other emotion that's going to in any way pull us down or make us feel less, like we aren't enough. Well, we are enough. We just have to realize that and take the suggestions in the book and move through it.
It's
Yeah, it
hard
definitely
not.
needs work. Go ahead,
No, go
Lori. I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Jason. No, go ahead.
No,
No,
Jason,
we
you're on
can't hear.
mute.
Okay, we can definitely expect that it takes some work, and we we you know, but the tools are there. I mean, and these steps that were mentioned earlier on, I think those can help to kind of dig down, figure out what you want to do with those feelings as they come. And maybe you don't have to spend a whole lot of time going over all of your emotions at once. Maybe just when a certain one that was triggered, you want to work on that one, give it a few minutes to come wash over you, and then quickly write down a quick few notes about it. Figure out what isn't true about the belief that you might have that's causing it, and change that. Write that belief down, that new one, and then post it, I guess is what they're saying. But it does take the work, and I'm interested to know. We've got, you know, with the five of us on here, who's actually willing to do those steps with at least one uncomfortable feeling.
Oh, I'm going to do those steps.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Do you
Most
feel any
definitely.
resistance towards doing those steps? I mean, I know
Sure.
I feel a little resistance towards doing the work
Sure.
sometimes.
Same. You
Yeah.
know, it's almost like I have to schedule that time because I know that one of the things that I do t- that takes me away from the work is I plan activities and I have distractions like we all do. And what does that do? It takes your focus away from the work, right? And so I try to schedule time when I can have plenty of time to do something like that. But I will.
And it's
Most
funny that we'll do that sometimes, allow ourselves to be distracted, but then get frustrated that we're still stuck. And then we end up getting in a whole nother loop, and then shaming ourselves over that.
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
Is it a
That is true.
distraction? Is it a distraction or an avoidance trick?
Well, for instance, just turning
Yeah.
on the TV. Like, I'm tired of being in my head. Let me just watch some TV, you know, kind of
Mm.
thing. Now, a better thing to do would be, and something I love to do is walk. I like to walk, especially in nature. And then I'm with my thoughts, unless I'm walking with somebody, rather than turning on the TV. You know,
That'll
that's an
turn on,
avoidance. That's an avoidance, right?
turning on the
Yeah.
TV is such a distraction. It creates more things in your head, and it's
Well, I'm not talking about the news. I don't turn on the news. Well, maybe briefly, but I try to look at it as like a witness, you know, and not absorb any emotional aftermath from watching the news. Because if I start going there, if I go into anger, fear, whatever while watching the news, or deep hurt about, you know, especially like the kids
Sure.
starving in Gaza, you know, that triggers me, and then I got to turn it off, you know.
Yeah, anything that can put you in a state of energy that's even
Lower.
lower than you were when you just needed to take a break for a minute. You're like, you decide, oh well, let me give so and so a call, and suddenly they've brought you into this lower state of energy. When you get off the phone, you feel even more exhausted than when you
Then Jason,
protect
you
that
have to
energy.
do the work, like, oh, let me get out some spiritual literature, or let me listen to some soothing spiritual songs, you know. And so it's constantly that, isn't it? Isn't life like that? But
totally.
yeah,
It can be.
you
You have to.
have to be very vigilant to continue to, you're going to dive in your energy, lower energy, and then you're going to find ways to pick yourself back up, but that's the key, is finding ways to pick yourself back up, to feel better. I mean, this is one of them. The connection and the understanding that I get from this group and other groups that I'm in is that's a highlight. That's most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's sort of kind of a tried and true thing that, you can get kind of raise your energy. At least I feel with this group, that's, how I feel about this group. I think, and I was just, you were talking about like distractions and avoidance, and what we might do sometimes when we're in something, we've been in it doing great, but we just need to take a break for a minute, but then we allow ourselves to go on, do an activity that is more of a distraction and a avoidance than a really something that is a tried and true thing that we can depend on, like listening to a music that gets us going, or taking a walk, or where we're pretty sure nothing crazy is going to happen, you know, rather than giving someone a call where you don't know where that conversation's going to go, or but we, like what we decide to do in our break time, where we know we got to get some more work done, but am I tricking myself with the break that I'm really going to use as avoidance and distraction to so I can justify not doing any more work for the rest of the day? Or am I really putting, like, I'm going to take a break, but I'm only going to listen to some great music and just, take a 5-minute nap or something and listen to great music, set my alarm so I get right back up and get to it. It's like
5-minute nap. That's like having the 5 minutes to do that activity in the book. It's going to take way more than 5 minutes.
Right.
Or whatever, you decide what your time is. I like to do like 20 to 45-minute breaks. Really, actually, I mean, I could take a 45-minute nap and feel completely back and energized. But a lot of people, everyone's got their own time frame. But
Yeah.
sometimes you don't have that time. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it's important, as you were saying, Jason, to find that if you're going to take a break, or if something's lowered your energy for whatever reason, and you want to raise it, is to, definitely find those things that are going to raise it, like meditation. Like, I'm starting to grow seeds in my house on my grow light stand for the summer, and things that are going to nurture my soul rather than something that's going to be disruptive to my soul, like watching, and being careful what you watch on TV, and not even just news, but if I'm going to watch a murder mystery, if it's a light one, that's okay. But if it's something like Dateline, or 2020, where it's a real life murder, and you're like, maybe that to me isn't necessarily a good choice. I mean, I probably could do that, and again be of the mind of a witness. I'm witnessing this, I'm not getting emotionally involved in this story, but you have to be very, very careful about that, because you're seeing the worst of human behavior when you watch shows like that about people who get murdered, people who are murderers, that the greed, the selfishness, all of those lower energies that are displayed when you're watching that. I don't need to see more examples of that. There's plenty of examples, not only in life, but you know, ones we've seen through our life. So
Yeah,
Like,
there's the aspect of that feeding that aspect that, you know, you're going to feed that energy, and where do you find the balance between feeding that or starving it?
right. That's a good way to
I
look
don't
at
feed that at
Start-
all, man. I try not to feed that at all.
Yeah.
If I'm doing some work to cleanse and elevate my energy, if I have to do work to do that, then I'm trying to avoid, um, my avoidance is trying to avoid those shows, whether they're
Yeah.
real or whatever.
Well,
It's all,
that's
I,
a
Yeah.
simple thing. You don't turn on the tube. That's what I just, you know,
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
um,
I like to do that, and but just be very selective. Like there was a movie called Ordinary Angels that
not me. I don't want to be, because you never know what's going to flash on the screen. It's out of your control. For me, it's out of my control. I'm giving my mind and attention to something where they have the control to do whatever, flash it on there, and especially if it's a show that I've never seen before. So if I want to keep my energy, if I want to make sure that I'm not derailed for the rest of the day, then I have to protect my energy and protect my focus and attention. But
oh,
that's just me.
I can admire that. No, definitely. If you know that sounds pretty good.
And it's tough to do with so much distraction out
Oh,
there.
yes. 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 It's but to me it's almost like also because I have a lot of curiosity. You know, it's like, oh, I wonder what that's, you know, what's that about? You know, just or I like to even go and find a comedy. You know, it's something that'll make you laugh. But you're right. There can always be something there that can trigger you into your energy level plummeting a bit. So but I don't want to cut that out completely out of my life. I just want to be selective, you know. But you do what works for you. Absolutely. Yeah. And certainly I've turned off shows, you know, I start watching and it's like, no, this is not doing anything for my energy level.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
or your
Yeah.
mindset, or, you
Right.
know, your
Right.
ideas about what this life should or shouldn't be.
Well, actually, and I'll tell you a little bit about this one movie. A lot of times I turn on and I'll rent movies on Xfinity to do my back exercises. Okay. So I rented this one called A Zone of Interest. And it's actually a pretty brilliant movie. I didn't finish watching it because it was disturbing to me, but um it was about a commandant right next to Auschwitz and his family and how they went about their lives um, perfectly happy, living their lives right next to Auschwitz and having children and the wife taking some of the clothes, getting some clothes from the discards of the women who, of course, left their clothes once they were all their belongings once they were gassed, you know, or and she was just very matter of fact about, oh, look at this. And I mean, I was curious about the movie, but I couldn't continue to watch it. So
That would disturb me also.
yeah. Yeah. I've read some reviews of it.
The whole
I mean,
thing,
he's
yeah,
up,
is
huh?
disturbing. So yeah,
Yeah.
the whole thing is very disturbing. So let's, I mean,
So you wouldn't go there, Jason. No.
I
I
wouldn't
was
even,
still
yeah, I
curious
wouldn't
about
even take
how
times to remember that stuff, and but especially not when when I have a day's worth of work to be working on, and you know,
right, right.
Joy
No,
love to spread. It's
you have what to
fun.
spread? Love to
Joy
spread?
and love
Yes,
to
yes, yes,
spread
yes,
to
yes.
people, you know,
Bring it
maybe
on.
at least
Bring it
I
on.
guess I feel like too, sometimes we have to go there, the duality of life,
nah, we don't.
and see what we don't want so that we know what we do want, right? And
Exactly.
yeah. So
Well, it's
this
forced on
was
us enough that we get. I think we get plenty of that. I think it's
what's
hard
enough?
enough for me. For me, I just think it's there. It's so much harder to keep, you know, that bright shining light and positivity going. And so many people want to talk about the downside of things and the drama, and I mean, and it's
Right. No, I agree with
so,
you. What do you think too about along with this, if you don't mind me mentioning, they talk nowadays about people who are on this spiritual path that they don't like toxic positivity. And I reject that because I don't think
oh,
being
you mean
really
like when they won't allow people to,
Right.
yeah, like, and like you're
they
supposed
call
to
it
be,
toxic
Yeah.
positivity if you're trying to constantly be in this
Yeah.
happy mode. Yeah.
That's too much. That's too much.
like fake positivity. Is that
Right.
trying to say?
Exactly.
I guess so. I guess so. I don't quite understand it. You know, I might Google that to get a better bead on what they mean. I guess they mean again, like what we're talking about, like that we're ignoring all the bad stuff. Well, we're doing that on purpose, you know. We're trying to, by protecting our energy and being in a more loving
Right.
space, where those thoughts are feeding into the collective consciousness, and we're trying to elevate that and continue to elevate that. So if more people were doing that, then that collective consciousness is what our reality becomes. All those thoughts, all those feelings, um, all those projections,
All
you know,
those
fear
actions.
and actions. Yes. Well, and those feelings and thoughts become actions. So if they were more positive, we'd have more positive action, you know?
Yeah, and I
If
think maybe it's that sort of thinking about the toxic positivity it might stem from where people are wanting to start from. It's like you want to climb higher, but do you start by getting down in the mud, or are you at a position where you don't need to be in that mud and you're ready to climb higher? Some people might be where they need to do that digging and work on that first before they can appreciate the positivity, and might actually even have resistance to that sort of positivity, because they're in a place where they need to do the digging and get down in the mud and do the work. That makes sense.
that makes total sense. It
Yep.
just, what you're saying is that we're all on our own conscious level. We're all
Right.
on our own path, and it's all different, and we're responsible for figuring out how to get on a higher path and being consistent with it. Yeah.
I
So we
think
have to
that's
respect where each other is, you know. So that's very worthwhile. Those comments are very worthwhile.
That's a good, thanks for bringing that up. That's interesting, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the difference between responding and reacting. Reacting out
Yeah.
of the past, or responding because of conscious choice to
Mhm.
decide to help the group consciousness, the collective consciousness.
Right. And that's where we're feeling a personal responsibility to take care of, to do the exercises in here and to take care of those false beliefs that we have. Those, whether it be fear or shame or anger or bitterness, and work on it to release it and know that that's a false belief. And once we do that, we're clearing up our little bit of the collective consciousness that could be raised a little higher,
Yeah, we can be that, hopefully be that person that can reach down and lift that other person up out of the mud if they're willing to
Yeah.
put their hand out and
No, they're not willing.
And it's interesting because we
Well-
can be great on one level or about one thing, but then when it comes to maybe something else, like great on love and relationship, but when it comes to money, well, I don't want to be positive because it's all negative. I need to do some digging, but with love, I can feel, we can be at different levels about different subjects.
Oh yeah.
What were you going to say, Catherine?
Totally agree.
I was going to say that, I mean, we're all enlightened spirits. We're already enlightened. Our souls are, I mean, their souls are just, they're enlightened. So, I mean, they may have a path, but they're a lot more enlightened than what we give them credit for. We come here to be human and experience being human. And I have watched through the years, and have experienced myself. There were years that I really isolated my energy and protected it and only hung out in the higher realms and only, everything was high. The food I ate was high, like everything was high. I will say as a human, I've grown more spiritually from holding the hand of someone who's addicted or, being at the bedside while the baby dies, or like I've learned more from the hard stuff than I will ever learn. Like my soul already knows how to be at that high and everything to be high. What it has to learn is how to deal with the lower emotions without falling apart, without being triggered, without, because a lot of times people take the high, and I'm not saying anybody here, I'm just saying in general, I work with a lot of people spiritually, and a lot of times they'll take that high vibration to avoid hunting the discomfort of what that low vibration is triggering within them, if that made any sense.
Yep.
Like, oh, I don't want to feel that shit, so I'm just going to go over here and do my meditation and be high. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like we have to get through this world however we can get through it. And each one of us has different circumstances that we have to live with. And somebody's life may look really easy from the outside, but when you see it on the inside, it's so totally complicated. It's so easy to judge people and emotions and vibrations. It's easy to judge. I mean, it's easy to get judgmental against vibrations. Even songs, like, oh, that song doesn't feel right, I'm not going to listen to it. Fine, don't listen to it. Somebody else that may be the song that saves their life. So I don't have any problem with people avoiding things as long as they don't put shame. Like this is part of the problem, and Kenji and I have had this discussion, often, but this part of the problem with Joe, as much as we love Joe Dispenza and the other person that Samantha brought up, there's a lot of shame and guilt that winds up on a person, and it's self-imposed. But when these people put out these books and all of these recordings and stuff, and everybody's buying into it, and yeah, you can heal yourself. But what happens when you don't heal yourself?
Right.
Like suddenly you put all this shame and guilt on yourself. Like, why can't I meditate enough? Why can't I be enough to heal? Like
Yes.
it's horrible what it can
Right.
do to
Mhm.
people. And so it's okay to have all of these thoughts and beliefs and stuff, but you just have to be careful about over imposing them on other people because you don't know necessarily. You would think that you're just giving good advice, but it might not be good advice for them at all. Like we just like it's just, I said this last week, it's really easy to be a total Zen monk when everything is going good. But when the shit hits the fan, most Zen monks are throwing the F-bomb too. Like,
Mhm.
it's hard to be Zen when you have, things crumbling down on you or whatever. But you can be like, and that's where the witness comes in, Jane. When you say you are watching it as the witness really is a wonderful thing. Being a witness, but it can also be another way to avoid the hunting discomfort. It can also be another way of
Distract.
judging
Yep.
and separation. And I don't think love is about separation. I think love is about inclusivity. And regardless, like I I think Jesus was a beautiful example of how you don't have to do anything to earn love. You don't have to make any amount of money. You don't have to be any creative. You don't have to be a public speaker. You don't have to be any of these things. You don't have to earn love. Like it's just that's something that we should be giving everybody. And I'm not Christian, but I love Jesus as the figure and everything that he represented and the compassion that he showed towards people that had nothing and were ostracized from the rest of the group and stuff. And so I think it's just like everything else. There's a balance to it. There's a balance to protecting our energy, but not isolating ourselves. See, because I'm the hermit. I could totally
Yeah.
isolate myself and not speak to anyone for a year. Like I wouldn't even speak a word out loud for a year and it wouldn't bother me at all. You wouldn't think so with me running my mouth like this, but I'm serious.
You're not running your mouth. You always
could-
have such eloquent things to say,
You do.
Catherine.
You
Well,
do.
thank you.
So I definitely get the impression that you're a wise woman that would benefit many people from hearing you. And
Thank you so much.
you've learned a lot in your life. Just that, what you just said, that little monologue was, I totally agreed with it. And again, back on, I do think though that an individual, again, making its own choices, it is, they're testing out different things to how it affects their energy and then going from there and deciding. And they also use their intuition. And I feel like I've been called to enhance my intuition more so that and that's kind of the next thing on my plate, that I want to strive for. And simply that means being able to listen and with extra sensory, your guides and your angels talking to you. Because I felt here and there, I don't know if any of you have ever had, like, you just hear music. I just hear music. And it's like, it's quiet. I know it's not coming from next door. It's just So to me, that's either one of my guides or my angel, or maybe a passed on relative who's trying to communicate with me. And it's up to me to kind of decipher who that is and kind of ask for more and, not ignore it. As well as I get a lot of ringing in my ears, especially if it's on your left side. That also means that it's coming from the spirit world.
Okay,
And
now you're tripping me out, because that has been something I've done my whole entire life. When my left ear rings, it's usually somebody's talking negative about me. I mean, I'm not paranoid. It's just, but when my right ear rings, it's always something really good.
oh, well, I'll have to look that up and double check. Have you Googled that?
No,
Because
no, I'm disappointed
no,
with
I'm
Google.
serious. There's a lot of stuff on the internet
I know,
about.
but I don't know what they've done to change it, but it's almost like you can't find anything when you go out there anymore. I don't know. The
I
internet.
Oh,
I
Jane,
don't
I
trust-
don't know if you're interested. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I don't trust the internet, that it's motivated by money.
well, and
It
I
is.
agree with that. Then don't spend money on it. Okay. But
No.
but you can find books. I think you
No,
noticed I'm an avid reader. I belong
it's
to
a
a couple
beautiful
of book
tool.
clubs.
It's a
You know,
beautiful tool. It really is.
it's a tool. Yes, yes, yes. And so in other words, too, if you take a deep dive, you can become psychic if you're willing to go there, if you're willing to accept that. Any of you believe or disbelieve that? Yes. So, because remember,
Absolutely, we all
there's
are.
no separation between God and us, and our spiritual team that supports us is dedicated to us, each one of us, and loves us dearly. So they're there. We just have to try to connect with them. And I dearly want to connect with them. And I have gone on retreats with psychics and those that are intuitive, deeply intuitive. And they have shown their capabilities. I've experienced them with, totally believe what they're saying is the truth about me, that they have are getting this from higher beings in the other realm. And so I don't know, it's something certainly I think that would enhance my life. And I'm already being called to it. I mean, the music is lovely.
I have a
And
class
it's
for you, my
intermittent.
dear. I
What?
have a class for you, Jane, if you're interested. I'm
What's
a
that?
medium. I'm an
Yes.
evidential medium.
Yes.
And
Ooh.
yeah, and I practice every week with other evidential mediums. We meet once a week and when we practice and we have people come in and they sit and we read them and stuff. But another class, and we all met through a different class, but we're all starting a new class next Tuesday. It starts. I think it's a 6-week class and it's only like $27 or something.
What time?
But it's from a very well-renowned psychic medium. And so if you wanted to expand your skills, you would be welcome to do that class and then join us in our mediumship practice, because it's really good to have people to practice with and learn from and
Hone the
get
skill.
confirmation from. Yeah.
I would love that. I mean, as a matter of fact, that's something
I'll put the link in the chat, not this
Okay.
chat, but the one on Facebook.
Okay.
I have
Okay.
a Tuesday call from 5:30 to 7:30. So I don't know what time that other
Yeah,
one
what
is.
time? What time?
I think
Um,
it's during the day. I want to say it's like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something. This woman's in the
That'd be great.
UK, so for her it's a different time, but it converts to afternoon time for us. So I'll put the link in the Facebook chat. You guys can check it out. And just so you know, like she offers several things. You know how there's always an upsell. So the first thing she offers is the mediumship, and then she'll offer a tarot class, which I do tarot. So I'm going to do the tarot with her And what happens is if when I clicked away, like I wasn't going to do the tarot, it cut the price down from 27 to like 17 or something like that. So, if you're interested in doing that, you can get it a little bit cheaper.
That's so funny. I've been thinking about doing tarot.
See,
That's
there
one of
you
the
go.
ways that you can get in touch with your angels.
Yep.
Okay.
I guess
And-
so, but that has caused me quite a bit of confusion that, it seems like maybe you were like me, not raised with it, but
Right.
had come in contact with the supreme being power that, no, that's of the devil, you can't go there. And the cards that I've been drawing online, which, you wonder how authentic that is if it's not a deck of cards in front of you. It's whatever. That draw the moon card, draw what is that deck where they have the Ace of Pentacles and that type of thing, and the Five of Swords and those tarot cards. I don't know, it's all so confusing, and
Right.
we've really gone way over. So I hate to be a killjoy, but I don't know if Jason needs to end the recording of
Well, that's a good point. I think
Yeah,
maybe
end the
we are
recording, and then we
quite a
can
bit
just stick
over.
around.
Yeah, we're.
Yeah,
I'm
end the
really
recording.
Remind everybody that is watching, join us on the mindset, the
Mastermind.
the Mindset Mastery Collective, and like, hit the button to like the show. If you've gotten something out of it and you liked it, you're welcome to join us next week, and request to join the group if you'd like. I appreciate everybody. Does anybody have any last minute thoughts? Okay.
Have a
well,
great week, everybody. And I hope everybody takes the opportunity to work with at least one emotion through those steps that it mentioned in the book. Just take one emotion and try to work through that and see what you come up with.
Absolutely.
see you all next week.